2, 1, 0.
Folks, it's Monday, it's 7 o'clock, it's March 3rd, which means it's time for Monday Night Nerd. Welcome, one and all, to the show. I greatly appreciate you spending your evening here with me on YouTube. Hope you're doing well. Hope you are being safe. Tonight, we are finishing the top 20 arcade games. We're doing 10 to 1 tonight. It is going to be a great night. Folks, if you didn't see me on Instagram, we talked about this last week and I made sure to post a story. The pre-show is now going to be on TikTok for the next few weeks. I want to hop on TikTok more and get that algorithm going, so you should hop over there on TikTok and you should make sure to join on the pre-show. Same time, 15 minutes before the show, but that's where we're going to be talking about cosplay because, folks, we got a wig over there, we got a portal gun there, we got a jacket right here, we got a whole bunch of cosplay going on. I'm having a great week. I got a lot of work to do. We're going to talk about that in a bit. Folks, thank you all for joining. I'm looking at the chat here. Phantom Frontier played catch up today and loved the first half of the list. Thanks for the shout out. So proud of you of how far the channel has come, brother. Phantom Frontier, I greatly appreciate that. And we will definitely have you back on here very, very soon. Having said that, Shaq Fu Cabinet better be on here or I'm unsubbing from your OF. I need that money, man. You can't be unsubscribing for that. That keeps me able to do this. Hope you're doing good, man. Andre, welcome. Alex, welcome as well. Let's jump into the newsy news, and then we will jump into the main event. Folks, speaking of main event, let's talk about the thing that is sweeping the world right now. Elimination Chamber over the weekend. Folks, the WWE was in town in the Toronto region for Elimination Chamber at the Rogers Center, and boy, it is a night that will live in infamy, to say the least. Let's start things off. I actually did not go to the show. I have so many concerts and stuff going on this year, I just couldn't afford to get tickets. So I did, however, go down there on Friday night after work because at the event, they had a giant superstore at the Rogers Center where I was able to pick up some merch, what I was really wanting to do. One of the things I am currently wearing, Miss Trish Stratus 25th anniversary t-shirt. I've never owned a Trish t-shirt, but I have always been a huge fan of hers, and I will be making sure to wear it at Nickel City when she is there. I will be probably working her table, so you can definitely make sure to look out for that. I also picked up a new Funko Pop Mr. Diamond Dallas Page. I am a big DDP fan. I am a big DDP yoga fan. So when I saw him in Funko form, I had to pick him up. And last but not least, I got to take this off because, man, it feels so fun to wear this hat as of Saturday night at about 11 o'clock. Oh, we have got a lot to talk about, but we'll get into that in a minute. Let's start things off with how the event started. The Women's Elimination Chamber started the night. It was a fine match. The big thing was Jade Cargill coming back and seeking revenge after being attacked by an unknown assailant. And from what we've seen, she attacked Naomi. So I think somehow Naomi is involved, which means Bianca Belair might be involved. She was super upset about what happened, but in the end, Bianca Belair was the winner of the chamber, and it was a fine match. It's really hard when you have two chamber matches back-to-back and not try and do the same thing, but the girls held up. It was a great match. No real complaints about it. Next, another girls match, we had Trish and Tiffany versus Nia Jax and Candice LeRae in a tag match. It was Trish's homecoming match. Her and Tiffy did a great job. They were an amazing tag team. I don't think they're going to be around as a tag team forever, but as a nice tribute to Toronto, rocking the Leaf colors, it was a fine match. Trish knocked it out of the park as always, because that's why she's a Hall of Famer. When it comes to the next match, we had... Who do we have next? We had Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn for about the 10,000th time. And you know what? It was just as good as the first time they fought back in ROH when it was Kevin Steen versus El Generico. And man, they did an amazing match. Sami Zayn just knows how to take a beating, and that is his specialty. Kevin, as always, just beat the daylights out of it. Overall, they did a great match. I wasn't sure about the lighting. If you guys didn't watch, they had sort of like a dimly lit ring and a dimly lit area around the outside. So I was kind of thinking that was going to throw things off, but it actually worked fine. Fighting through the crowd, fighting through some tables. Honestly, they did a killer match. And I'm glad that even after their 10,000th time wrestling each other, they still put on a clinic. And even when they announced it, I was like, it's still going to be a good match. I don't even need to worry because it's Sami and Kevin. They've fought a million times. They're going to do a great job. And last but not least, well, maybe not last but not least, but the final match of the night was the men's Elimination Chamber. Seth Rollins, Logan Paul, Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, John Cena, and one other that I can't think of. Drew, Seth, Damian Priest. There we go. And it was an amazing match. It was such a great storytelling match. It is very hard. And I've for those who don't know, I've been a wrestling fan since 97, and I've watched pretty much every pay-per-view that's ever existed since then till now. It's hard to book an Elimination Chamber match where you truly believe everybody has a shot. Every time they do one, they say, these 6 men are entering, and anyone could win. We know as fans, there's probably a 1 person, 2 people that may come out on top. This match, I had a feeling what the ending was going to be, and I wasn't disappointed. But I was kind of sitting there going, if Seth wins, it makes sense. If Drew wins, it makes sense. Even if Logan wins, it makes sense. So it was good having a nice mix in there going, well, they could do a left turn. You never know. But the final 2 in the chamber was John Cena and CM Punk, the 2 people that I was more than happy to see in the finals. In the end, Seth Rollins gets eliminated and costs CM Punk the match, hitting him with the curb stomp outside of the ring, and John Cena throws on the STFU and makes him pass out, and John Cena is going to WrestleMania, his final year, his final WrestleMania. He will be main eventing against Cody Rhodes. However, the last segment of the show was not the chamber. It was The Rock and Cody Rhodes. While John was celebrating, Cody Rhodes came out and celebrated with him. However, the final boss comes out and during the week, he had told Cody he wants Cody's soul. He doesn't want his title. Basically what that means is he wants Cody to become the corporate champion, because if you don't know, The Rock is a board member of TKO, the parent company of WWE. And Cody had to make a decision. And Cody basically told Rock to go screw himself, gave John Cena a hug, and the kick heard round the world. John Cena hoofs Cody Rhodes between the legs and turns his back on all the fans and joins the final boss. And everybody's been talking about it ever since. What is going to happen with John Cena, the man who has more Make-A-Wish, has made more Make-A-Wishes for that foundation than anyone else? The hustle, loyalty, and respect, rise above hate and all that, is now a heel for the first time in 25 years, it seems like. He hasn't been a heel since like 02, 03. And what is going to happen tonight? What is going to happen on Friday? I don't know, but I am super excited to see where we're going to go for WrestleMania. As Justin says in chat, CM Punk still has that Heyman favor. And for those who don't know what that is, CM Punk helped Roman Reigns late last year at Survivor Series, and he told Paul Heyman, when I need a favor, I will come calling. So as Justin says, I believe CM Punk will somehow be in that main event this year. And maybe we're going to have a triple threat. But man, I am so excited for what they're going to do with John, because he had done an interview with, I believe, Chris Van Vliet earlier this month, I want to say a couple months ago. And he brought up that at one point they considered making him a heel. And he has all new music, all new persona, all new ring gear, and everything else. So I am excited to see what this is going to look like. It is going to be such a fun time in wrestling. And you know what? I think that's the best part, is that even though I've been a fan since 97 and I've watched it, I've studied it, I know more than I probably should, it's still fun. And there was definitely a time that it got really slow and really bad. But it is great to see what has come out of this, and Cody coming back and becoming the new big baby face, and now having Punk back in. The Rock is in it. John's in it. Like, it is premium wrestling again. And I'm so happy that the world in general is becoming wrestling fans again, because they're, like I said, it does drop every once in a while, but it's good to have everybody back. So it was a great pay-per-view. I'm excited. We got 7 weeks until WrestleMania, so there's a lot of runway for WWE to build the rest of the cards. So I'm super excited, and it was a great pay-per-view. When it comes to other news, there isn't a ton. I have to admit, I was doing a little bit of running around today, getting some cosplay supplies. I now have new pants for Gambit that'll be worked on this week. I have the tank tops for Portal. The portal gun has now been fully assembled. I need to work on it, how to do LEDs in that. Whether I can get LEDs done on it, I don't know, because I've never really worked on those before, but we're going to give it a shot because we got a couple weeks. But we're in the middle of cosplay season and Comic-Con season. In the next 2 weeks, we have got this month, we have got a lot going on. Let's quickly run through, and I should have had this all set up, and I just didn't do it because I'm a terrible host. I should have all this stuff ready and waiting to go. So we've got Toronto Comic-Con coming up next weekend, the 14th and the 15th in Toronto, 14th, 15th, 16th, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I will only be there on the Sunday. I did not get official tickets because it's not a big enough con for me to do 3 days. However, because I have the premium pass, whatever it's called now, I get a free day, either Friday or Sunday. So I will be there all day Sunday. I will be bringing the Cajun Gambit to Comic-Con, the new upgraded version. It is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to be going with my buddy Sean, which I'm super excited about because we haven't done a Comic-Con in a long time together. So it's going to be great carpooling with him. Then, more important, March 30th or March 29th. Let's start that again. In the end of the month, March 29th and March 30th in Toronto, we have Toronto Game Expo, which I am delighted to say, and you probably are all well aware of this, I am a guest. I am super excited to be a guest. I'm surrounded by so many amazing cosplayers, and I'm not doing this to kick myself and all that, but it is really humbling to be invited as a guest and be surrounded by people like Saphira Cosplay, Freakish Workshop, The Geeks & Co., and all the other amazing cosplayers that are going to be there. I'm really excited. The Freakish Workshop and I will be hosting a panel. I don't know exactly what day it is. They will be posting a schedule probably the next couple days to get you guys ready so you know what's happening on each day. But we will be doing a panel and we will be talking all about EVA Foam 101. So if you've ever wanted to start using foam for your cosplay, we will be there on the main stage talking about all the things you need, all the pieces of all the tools you need, all the foam types, how to get a pattern, how to build a pattern, how to put everything together. You will have a great understanding once you're done the panel. When it comes to cosplay, we will be bringing Gambit back for one more tour, and then we're going to be debuting Portal, which I'm so excited to do. My first gender bend cosplay. But you can check out Toronto Game Expo on Instagram and on their website. Tickets are available now. You should come out. I might I might have some giveaways. I'm going to print a couple things that if you swing by the booth and you're really cool, maybe somebody will give you a prop or something. Maybe. We'll see. But you won't know if you don't have a ticket. So go to Toronto Games Con on Instagram and on their website, and you can get your tickets for that weekend. Those are the cons coming up for the month. When it comes to other stuff, I haven't been really doing a whole lot. I know I was really big on Reacher last week talking about the first 3 episodes. I have not had a chance to watch episode 4. That'll probably be either tonight or tomorrow, so I will definitely be back next week to talk about Reacher. When it comes to video games, I haven't really done a ton on video games this week. I've just been too busy doing cosplay stuff. However, while I was running around before the show started, I did hop on Facebook Marketplace and I picked up MK1. We have the new Mortal Kombat 1 in my collection now, so I'll be installing that after the show, and I will be jumping into that because I am a huge Mortal Kombat fan. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, as to what is going to be on the list tonight for arcade cabinets. So that's it for the news, folks. If you're still here, I greatly appreciate it if you can hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, all those things that everybody on this platform talks about. It would mean a lot to me because it means you guys like this type of stuff, and that means that I should do more of it. I should do more top 10s or top 20 lists. So if you tell me, I'll do more of it. Let's jump into the sponsor, and then we're going to hit the road into the main event. Folks, you know the sponsor. It's been the sponsor for the past 92 episodes, and she will continue to be that sponsor. Is my beautiful, amazing, incredible wife. She is always going to be my sponsor because without her, I would not have this amazing house. I would not have an amazing family. I would not have my amazing pets and a whole lot more. Hon, I love you. You will always be my sponsor. Thank you. Okay, let's jump in to the main event. We are here. We are in the top 10, folks. Last week, we did the 20 to 11. We had some bangers on there. We had TMNT. We had Simpsons. We had House of the Dead. We had WrestleFest and a whole lot more. But we're going to do 10 to 1 tonight. And if you didn't watch the old show, well, you should have, because it kind of works both of them together. But I'm going to talk about the criteria again, just so in case you got some new people on here, why I chose what I did and how this all works. First, these are all the original arcade cabinets. We're not using one-ups. We're not using homebrews or anything like that. These are the original cabinets. We're not, because we could do an entire episode just on the one-up remaster and rebrands and whatever you want to call them that are out the past few years. But these are all the original cabinets. This list includes 3 factors. This includes the game plays a factor. So if the game is super cheap and just wants you to feed it quarters, that will hurt the score. We're also going to talk about the cabinet itself, because at the time, the cabinet played a big factor. You're walking through an arcade and you have so many lights and sounds coming at you. A giant arcade cabinet with really cool art on the side would attract your eye from when you were a kid. So that is also very important. Lastly, and because this is my list, this plays a giant factor, especially in the top 10. I went to arcades a lot with my dad. So there are a lot of games in here, including, which I'm going to call my dad's trilogy of the games that meant the most to us when we were kids, or when I was a kid. So that will play a factor. Also, no pinball. Pinball is a completely different list that I will work on in the future. If we threw pinball in here, it would blow it up and we would have way too many pinballs thrown in here, and we would end up having like a top 50. When it comes to arcade cabinets, these will be 90s to 2000s. These are not going to be anything retro, anything modern. So Donkey Kong, Pac-Man, all those are classics. We all love them, but that was not my generation. They have their own space. They are god tier. If we didn't have those, we wouldn't have these, but they're just not on the list. And the arcades really stopped around the early 2000s for me. That's when they kind of got taken away in the areas. So you got 90s to 2000s. That's where our lane is. And I think that's about it. What do we have in chat? Andre, T2 was probably my favorite from last week. Who doesn't love T2? And by the way, folks, that's something I should have brought up on the news. There is a new 2D Terminator 2 game coming out called Dawn of Fate, I believe it is. Go check out the preview for it. It looks amazing. What else we got? I may or may not have the Killer Instinct cabinet on order. I am jealous. I am so jealous. We will definitely have to have an arcade night. Oh, love my Killer Instincts. All right, let's jump into the top 10, folks. Let's kick things off with one that is still riding high, a classic now to the point that they have just re-released a bunch of these cabinets all together onto the Switch, onto the PlayStation, and that is Marvel vs. Capcom. Now, we're going with the original here because I could pick number 2 because I played number 2 more, but I think this one deserves the spot because this is the one that when you were a kid, you walked into an arcade and you saw those two names there. You saw Marvel and you're thinking Spider-Man, Captain America, Wolverine, and then you thought Capcom of Ryu and Mega Man, and these guys are fighting. What? And it's a good game. I think that's the part that's not really given the credit it's due. It's a great game and it's well known and it's well loved, but to do a ballsy move like that and do Marvel versus Capcom and then knock it out of the park when it comes to gameplay, how could this not be on a top 10 list? The mashups are amazing. The team-ups are dream-worthy. And I don't know what else to say about this because if you haven't played a Marvel vs. Capcom game, where have you been? Because again, these games are not just arcade games at this point. They have been on many different ports onto systems, and they just got re-released in a giant collection that I hopefully will be getting very, very soon because I can't wait to play through all of them all over again. So we're kicking things off with a banger, and that is the Marvel vs. Capcom cabinet. The only thing that does hurt this cabinet is that most of them, and this picture plays a giant part in it, most of the MVC cabinets that I've seen are just generic cabinets with the artwork on top. One Up has a beautiful side and a beautiful front and beautiful marquee, but most of them are just basic cabinets. So that does kind of ruin it a little bit because it really does. I can't think of, besides the One Up cabinet, I can't think of what the original artwork is because I don't remember seeing it that often. And honestly, looking for it for a photo for the podcast was hard to find something that wasn't the One Up cabinet. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, the original arcade cabinet of Salem, Massachusetts, apparently. I spotted 8 original run cabinets while we were there. Oh, man, that was a beautiful cabinet as well. But I have to give the first one the love. Andre, my favorite arcade games include Sega Rally 2 Deluxe, 6-player X-Men twin screen. Maybe that's coming up. Spike Out, Daytona USA, F355, and Outrun 1 and 2. Great lineup, Andre. Man, you should make your own list. All right, so we are off with MVC. Let's jump into another one. And folks, when you see online, you see a picture of something, you see a caption that pictures, you hear the sounds when you see the pictures. I'm going to throw this cabinet up, and there is a band that is going to pop into your head, and I want you to tell me in chat what that band is, all right? What band comes to mind when you see Crazy Freaking Taxi? Because there is a song that is played every single time you start that game up. And man, this is a cabinet that I think it holds a special place in my heart, first of all, because it's such a dumb idea. Really. I mean, Andre, thank you. And Andre, thank you. Offspring. Yes, 100% it's the Offspring. This is such a dumb concept. In the end, it really is. You're going to do a game about being a taxi driver. And all that we're going to do is give you a bunch of freedom and a bunch of speed. And that's it. And we're going to blast Offspring. Like, okay, and guess what? It works. It completely works. It is such a fun game to just drive around the city, picking up people. It's funny. I played this so many times in the arcade, and I always had the same route. Every time I picked up the same people, and I always got the same distance. And I remember watching someone play it. I don't know if it was a friend of mine but they were playing it, and they were picking up other people, like on the other side of the road. And I didn't even notice the other people. I always had my set of individuals that I was always picking up. So changing things made things a lot more fun. But it's such a great game. The Offspring soundtrack just kills it. And it also holds a special place in my heart because this is a game that I have on PlayStation 2. And it holds a special place in my heart because I don't know if I told the story. I probably told you the story back when we first started the podcast, but I was a Nintendo kid all through my life. Regular Nintendo, Super Nintendo, N64. It was around the N64 days that was when the PlayStation came out. And my mom asked me, do you want a PlayStation or do you want an N64? And I said I wanted an N64 because I grew up with Mario. And then when the next generation came out, it was GameCube, Xbox, and PS2. Well, I was ready to get my new console, but I wasn't sure what I wanted because I'd seen so many great things come out of PlayStation and so many great things come out of Xbox that I didn't know if I wanted to jump. A good friend of mine at the time named Jason had a PlayStation 2 and had started a great game collection. And he was really interested in getting an Xbox. And the only way to do that was to sell his PlayStation. And at that point, I had started to look towards the PlayStation, and I finally said to him, I'll buy your PlayStation 2, or my mom will buy your PlayStation 2, and then you'll have enough money to get the new Xbox. And in his game collection, the one that I was the most excited for was Crazy Taxi. That was the one that sold me. I was like, there was Onimusha was on there. Super Bust a Move was in there. Tiger Woods PGA Tour, like nothing crazy. The Grand Theft Auto and stuff like that had not come out yet. But once I saw that cartridge or that disc, I was like, that's it. I want that console because I want to play that every day. And man, did I play the crap out of it. And I still have it downstairs. I love the game. It is a classic. Andre said, I saw someone on one playthrough over 35 minutes. Yeah. You can do amazing on that, and it's something that, like I said earlier, I think just the people I was picking up always just I didn't hit the right ones. So I've seen some people just do crazy runs with it, and hey, good on them. It's a lot easier to do it when you're at home when on a console, but Crazy Taxi definitely holds a special place in my heart. So we got a driving game, we got a fighting game. We did some cabinets last week that probably a lot of people would think should have been higher up. Lark Bark, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. We are doing great. We had talked about some beat 'em ups. We had talked about The Simpsons. We talked about TMNT. But there's one that we did not put on the list, and that was because this one, to me, is my favorite, and that is the X-Men cabinet. Now, when I talk about the look of a cabinet, that's a cabinet. The artwork just pops. There is, for such a big cabinet, it is hard to, you can't look at that cabinet in any area and not see incredible artwork from the marquee to the side to the front. It is a beautiful looking cabinet. It is also a 6-person beat 'em up. That is not you cannot do that on TMNT. You cannot do that with The Simpsons, but you can do with X-Men. And the part that makes me kind of think twice about this is that this was the time when the X-Men animated series was going on, the 97 series, not the current one, but based off the original. The this artwork and these characters are not the same ones that are in the TV show that was currently running. So it's interesting that they went with these ones, but also that no kid really had a problem with it. In today's day and age, if you mess with anything when it comes to design of a character, costume, anything like that, you're going to get a big uproar. But back then, we were perfectly fine with this. And it's nice to see it because with this game, you put some characters in the spotlight that normally wouldn't get the spotlight. For example, you've got your basic X-Men that you already know. You've got Wolverine, you've got Cyclops, you've got Storm. But then you've also got Nightcrawler, which he had his spotlight in the TV show. But you then also have Colossus and Kitty Pryde, who were not big in the animated show at the time. So you had some characters in there that people I don't remember hearing people having a problem with it. In fact, I played Colossus a lot when I played that game. You also had so many great cameo villains. And as people are saying in chat, "Welcome to Die" is one of the best lines coming out of Magneto in one of the later parts of the game. It's definitely the problem, as I said last week with The Simpsons, was The Simpsons 1 came out after only the first or second season. So they really didn't have a lot to work with. They had, a couple characters that lasted throughout the years, but when you only have 1 to 2 seasons to work with, it's not a lot. This one had years of characters to build off of, with the White Queen, with Pyro and Magneto, Juggernaut, etc. You had tons to work with, and they were able to use those things as characters in the game. So you weren't just playing, you had your generic characters you beat up during the game, but you had big bosses that you recognized, which made it so much better. And to be honest, I just loved X-Men more. I thought it was a more fun game. I love TMNT. I played the hell out of TMNT Turtles in Time, but just having the 6 players and the characters, and just it seemed more fun to me. So that is why X-Men is higher on the list. What we got in chat? Freakish Workshop, NC wasn't as big as he became at this point, though. Yeah, true. What do we got? This was always the loudest cabinet in the arcade. You could always hear Colossus screaming. 100% you could always hear him screaming when he was going into his super move. But yeah, like just the cabinet, the sounds, the look, the characters, it's an obvious one. So we've now gone through a couple different types of games, and we're going to do that again now. We're going to go into the sports world. And this is because back in the mid-90s, the early 90s, there was a sport which I am a giant hockey fan. 100% I'm a hockey fan. But when you were a kid in the 90s, there was a man jumping across a court, holding the basketball, sticking his tongue out, that you just fell in love with. And that man was Michael Jordan. And as Justin said in chat, the next game on this list is NBA Jam. And there's a reason. And that's because the NBA was dominant back in the 90s. I was such a big NBA fan. I think it kind of shocks my wife now because I've watched the Last Dance Jordan documentary on Netflix probably like 10 times from beginning to end. When we were on our trip in Europe earlier last year, that was pretty much the only thing I watched because I had downloaded Netflix in the airport and downloaded all of the episodes onto my phone. So I watched it continuously because I'm a big Bulls fan. Like, I love Jordan, I love Rodman, I love Pippen, I love all of those guys. And being a kid at that point, seeing this cabinet and seeing the basketball on the side, the music, the announcer yelling at the top of his lungs of "ugly shot" and "he's on fire," just made you as a kid just want to play this game. And the fact that you didn't have Jordan in it just made it that much more interesting, because as a kid, you didn't know. And there we go. As Andre said, ironically, Jordan was only in the earliest version of NBA Jam before getting removed. And that was, from what I've read, I don't know how true it is, but what I read is that it was because I've heard either he was too dominant of a player and his stats were too high, or they wanted people to play other teams and they didn't want people to just play as Jordan. But yeah, Justin, boom shakalaka. It is such a fun game, and even having it, I was at, I think it was Best Buy, and they had the arcade 1-up set up, and I was just like, okay, I got to play at least one round of it because it is still such a fun game. And it's one of the few games you can actually, similar to WrestleFest, that you could do a tag team, because it is it's a 3-on-3, or a 2-on-2 game. So you do have, you can play with a friend or you can play against them, which is something that a lot of arcade did not have. Oh, Justin, Wayne Gretzky 3D hockey, man, if they put that in the arcade, man, that's an N64 classic. So we've gone from a Crazy Taxi, we've gone into an NBA Jam, we've talked about the comics, love of X-Men. My man, Phantom Frontier talked about this cabinet earlier, and I had a reaction, and that is because I am a huge fan of this franchise. And it is a fighting game because I am a fighting game kid. And that is Primal frickin' Rage. Actually, no, you were talking about Killer Instinct. I thought you were talking about... Sorry. I thought you were talking about Killer... My bad. I take back what I said. Primal Rage. Now, let's talk about this cabinet, folks. Look at that. Look at that cabinet. You're 12. You're 10. You're 11. You're 12. And that cabinet is in the arcade. How are you not interested to find out what the hell that is? Man, this is one of the most fun cabinets so let me go into a little bit about the cabinet, and then we'll go into my story. So if you don't know what Primal Rage is, because they haven't talked about this game in forever, and I don't know frickin' why, it is basically Godzilla versus Kong meets Mortal Kombat. Like, that's basically what it is. It is a bunch of dinosaurs, and you're doing a 2D side fighter, just like Mortal Kombat. They're all digitized, and there's fatalities and everything else. It is basically the Godzilla versus Kong of the 90s. Now, the story is each one of these monsters has their place on Earth. They go to a different place. There's tribes people around. You can kind of see them in the photo. You can eat them to save your health. Your meter at the top is a vein connected to a heart. And when it gets to the end, the heart explodes, and your brain has, I think it's your stamina meter, that can blow. A whole lot of blood and a whole lot of violence. Now, this is a funny story because at my arcade when I grew up, which was just down the road at a local mall, my dad and I would go, we would get pizza at the pizza place literally next door. It was in the same mall. We would get pizza, we would eat it, we would go to the arcade. Now, there was a Shoppers close to there too. And we would go my mom and I would go to the Shoppers near there. And I would always be like, oh, we should go look at these cabinets because I'm a really big fan of the arcade and my mom should take me and my mom's like, no, you go with your dad, you don't go with me. And I remember walking by, and Primal Rage was at the edge of the arcade, like kind of out into the hallway a bit. And we were walking by, and I'm like, oh, Primal Rage. And it's like the minute that they show the demo at the demo screen, and the one dinosaur is just ripping the other one in half, and like the blood shooting across the top. And my mom's just like, you're playing that? And I'm like, no, I like looking at it. I'm not playing it though. Secretly, I've spent like $5 on this game last weekend. And she's just like, this is the worst game I've ever seen. I don't want you playing this ever again. I ended up playing it a lot after that. But yeah, this cabinet does hold a special place in my heart just for that interaction of my mom like, this is the worst thing you could be playing. And I'm like, dude, in the back is like cops and robbers games where I'm shooting people. Like, this is a bunch of animals just ripping the crap out of each other. It's nothing that bad. It's like my mom with The Simpsons. My mom hated The Simpsons growing up. That's why I had no real love for The Simpsons game. And then my dad showed me South Park, and I became a giant South Park fan. And then my mom's like, you shouldn't be watching South Park. And then I showed her South Park, and she's like, this is the best show ever. So we have that weird relationship where she's like, don't do that. I'm like, see how fun it is? She's like, oh yeah, I guess it's hilarious. So I don't know. Phantom Frontier, we talked about Primal Rage in person. Yes, that's what it was. Yes, exactly. They do need to make a 1-Up. 1-Up needs to make a Primal Rage. I don't know if it's a licensing issue. I know they were thinking of making a second one, but it kind of fell by the wayside. But yeah, Primal Rage is such a good game. So we've gone into Primal Rage. This one, number 5, is sort of a left field one. But when I explain why, it makes sense. And I really want to stress in this one, this has a lot to do with the cabinet and the gameplay. And that's mostly because it's something very, very different. And I love it because of that. And that is a little-known shooter, Silent Scope. When I walked in and saw this bloody cabinet, my jaw dropped. Back in the day, we had the little handguns, and we had, the machine guns at T2. This one, you got a bloody scope. This one stood out. That's like a word. It's also like stood. This one stood out more than any other shooter in the arcade because of the size of the bloody rifle. So what this game is, and you can kind of tell by the photo, you are a sniper, and you are to look down the barrel of the rifle, and it zooms in, and you basically take out your targets. And you are timed, so you have to do it after a certain amount. But the thing that makes this such a fun concept is that you actually use it like a real sniper would. And that is, the gun does move, but you would sit there looking down the scope, but then you could also look away and kind of, if you got to do a big pan to a different corner, you're not sitting there slowly going across. You can just do a quick look, move it, drop down, bang. Bang. It was such a great idea for a game. And another one that as soon as I found out this was available on the PlayStation 2, I got my copy and I still have it downstairs. Doesn't come with a giant gun, but it's still kind of fun to play on the system. This one, and this is something we haven't really touched on a lot, but it actually plays a lot in this. It could have been super cheap. Like, it could have just been a game that just sucks in quarters, because the idea of a giant gun and a bunch of kids and, looking down the scope the whole time, because some kids aren't smart enough to look away and look at the screen. It really was a fun and fair game. I mean, once you kind of figured out level by level where your targets are, because the targets really didn't move that much, you could kind of plan where to start your scope when you started a level and start pinging people off pretty darn quick. So it was a very fair game, which made things a lot more fun than they could have just been like, we're going to move the target to random places and you're going to just run through quarters because you're not going to get through the first level. So this one is definitely on my top 5 because of the innovation, and it just, as a kid looking at this going, okay, what is this? How fun is this? And it was a lot of fun. Andre, you've never played it. I completely understand that it's not one that was around a lot, but it was at my local arcade, and I loved it. So we're into the top 5. Now, I did say that there is going to be a trilogy for my dad, because as I said at the beginning, my dad was the one that took me to the arcade when I was a kid. And from 4 to 2, these are the trilogy, and you will see somewhat of a theme. And I know these three will not probably be on a lot of people's top 5, top 4, whatever. But to me, they do hold a special place in my heart because we did have a lot of fun playing those games together. And it's a key thing when I say we're playing them together. And one that we spent a lot of quarters on was NFL Blitz. My dad is a big football fan. I'm a football fan. I'm not a giant football fan, but I'm a football fan. And this was, and probably still is, the best arcade football game out there. This was a great combination of a strategy football game, but also the arcade physics and just a great pick up and play style. You had all the original teams, which was great because there was some football games out at that point that were just, they didn't get the licensing from the NFL, so you're just playing teams that no one really cares about. But having the actual players, the actual teams, made it a lot more fun. The most fun about this game, and if you've ever played it, you know what it is. You were able to hit people after the play, which was so fun. Like to have your opposing team get a touchdown, and when you're on defense, just charging him and tackling him mid-celebration, it just made it so much more fun. My dad and I pumped so many quarters into this. The characters were larger than life. And to be fair, I was a Cowboy. I'm still a Dallas Cowboy fan. I know their record is like 0-6 million at this point. So it was fun playing a game and actually seeing Dallas win once in a while. So yeah, we played a ton of this. I have it on PlayStation 1. And then later on, this series made its way to the PlayStation 2 with a more adult version of this without the NFL license. Which is even more fun. The newer games, you could honestly break limbs, you could cause giant concussions, and they showed when you'd go and tackle somebody after the play, you would get a zoom in and they'd show sort of like the insides cracking, and then you could give them steroids to get them back on the field early. Like it's such a crazy game. But this is what started it all, and it holds a very, very special place in my heart. Justice Smith being able to powerbomb and leg drop a guy in Blitz was awesome. It really made, like, it was such a, I would love to talk to somebody who developed the game and just be like, was that intentional? Like, did you guys build the game for that? Or is it just like you guys were testing and started doing this thing because you forgot to turn off the controls and just started tackling each other? And we're like, we're going to have to keep this in the game because this is the most fun part. I don't know. Lark Bark says, oh, another game that I truly miss. I used to play this all the time on the console. Yeah, me too. I still play it every once in a while. I'll throw on my PS2 and drop it in. It's still a great time. Number 2 on my list. This is more my love, but my dad still enjoyed playing this with me when we were side by side, and that is Cruisin' the World, or Cruisin' USA, whichever one. They're both amazing, but Cruisin' USA specifically, look at that console. Like, can you tell me, like, that is one of the nicest looking cabinets in the world. Like, the hood of the car, the sunset, the Cruisin' USA logo, like, and another one that has those speakers on the side that are just pumping out music the whole time. So you're walking by this, and while the console may not get your attention if you're that person, but that music pumping out and him yelling "Cruisin'" just gets you hooked and makes you want to play it. This is another one that I knew I had to get on console when I was able to. It's actually one of the few N64 games that I still hold the box to. As with most kids, I threw out the box because I didn't really care. But for some reason, I kept Cruisin' USA. That one, Resident Evil 2, and, well, I bought it later, but Conker's Bad Fur Day I have the box for. But, yeah, for some reason, I kept the Cruisin' USA one. I don't know why. But, yeah, the arcade is such a fun time. Doing backflips, driving around. The sort of 3D graphics where the car sort of stays in the middle and the track kind of moves. it's such a fun concept. They did it again with Cruisin World, which I noticed. I put this photo up, and then when I was looking through the photos again yesterday to get them ready, I noticed it's a Cruisin USA cabinet, but you can tell by the logo in the middle of the screen, that's a Cruisin World game. So they put the Cruisin World game in the Cruisin USA cabinet. But yeah, the Cruisin USA, Cruisin World, Cruisin Exotica, all three of them are great arcade games that I still enjoy throwing in every once in a while, and definitely holds a special place in my heart because my dad and I, they usually had them side by side, so we would both hop in, and whether we played against each other or we just ended up driving our own tracks, it was still always a fun time. This one is the one that holds the most special place in my heart for my dad. And I'll explain why when I show you what it is. It's one I wish I was able, if I was able to get a cabinet of any retro game, this would probably be one of them. And it would if you put my top 10 and you said you can only have one, number 1 would obviously be the choice. But if that wasn't available, this is why it's number 2, because it really does mean that much to me. And that is Daytona USA. And there's a reason for this. Not only because, the do Daytona is such a great opening song, but my dad races stock cars. Used to, doesn't do it anymore. But when I grew up, he raced stock cars at at a racetrack in the area. So that was my dad. My dad is a giant NASCAR fan. He used to build his own cars. He would go racing all the time. And this was our sort of video game connection. My dad and I, he understood my art, but he also kind of didn't. And that's perfectly fine, whatever. But this was something where when it came to video games, we really had that connection of like, he saw why I loved it and I saw why he loved it. It was something that we probably spent more money on this game than anything else. And as Justin says, rolling start. Such a great opening line when you start the race. It's just a fun game, and it's hard to explain to everybody why it means so much to me, besides that it does have a connection with me and my dad. Having this little race leader would light up when whoever was in the lead, which was nice because when you're the kid, it was hard to beat my dad at stuff. Like we had one of the rod hockey games. I never beat him ever. But then I knew when we go to the arcade, I had a chance. And when I'm driving and I'm looking up and seeing the race leader up top and I'm beating my dad, it felt pretty good. So this definitely holds a special place in my heart. And I still, anytime I go to an arcade or if I'm at a place that has this, I got to throw a quarter in and give it a shot because it holds such a special place in my heart. Justin says, my cousin had this for Sega Saturn growing up. They released it on PS3 back in the day. I can't believe I'm saying that for PS3. But PS3 had it. So I do have it on my PS3 as a digital download. But being in the cabinet just makes it so much better. We have one more left, but I want to do one thing before we jump into the last thing. And thank you all for being here. We're at 53 minutes. I promise you I'll get you out of here early. But I wanted to give a shout out to something that no longer exists. Unfortunately, the pandemic took this away from us. If you're in the Southern Ontario area, you know that there was a place near Toronto in Mississauga that, if you were an arcade fan, was the mecca of arcades. There were little arcades all over the place, malls, party places, but there was only one place that you had to go to if you were an arcade fan, and that was Playdium. Playdium is... There were many businesses that were lost due to the pandemic, and this was one that meant a lot to me. This was the place that I begged to go to when I was a kid because of how many arcade games were there. It was, for those who've never been there, it was a giant arcade. Like, it had every game you could ever think of. It had go-karts in the back. There was a batting cage. It was a paradise for a kid. As Justin said, I remember when it first opened, they called it Sega City. I do too. I didn't get to go when it was Sega City, but I went when it was Playdium. Funny enough, there is a Playdium at Fairview Mall now. I want to check it out at some point. I've heard that. I do want to check it out. Sadly, it's obviously not going to be the same because it's never going to be the same. This was a place that I absolutely loved. And I loved it to the point that this is where we went for my bachelor party. I am not someone who drinks. I don't enjoy going to adult strip clubs and stuff like that because I got a wife who is incredible looking. So we went here as part of my bachelor party. We went to where did we go first? We went somewhere. It wasn't archery tag. We went somewhere, and I cannot think of where it was. Can't think of it. But we went for food, and then we went to Playdium, and we spent a couple hours at Playdium. And honestly, every groomsman, whether they were kissing my butt or not, I don't think they were, but they all said this was the most fun they had because it was just laid back, having fun. We ended up going for my wife, too. It wasn't her bachelorette party, but we ended up going back after telling her how much fun we had, and she had a blast, too. Justin, that reboot ride. It's so funny. When I was thinking about this, I was thinking about also the, what's it called? Canada's Wonderland had a top 3, 2, 1, a Days of Thunder ride with motion seats. They then changed it to James Bond and a couple others. And then that got me thinking about the reboot ride. I've seen video online of Days of Thunder. I've seen video of James Bond. I've never seen video of the reboot ride online. And I would love to see it because it was such a fun ride. For those who don't know, it was a motion seat. Like, you'd sit down the motion seats and the screen would move. The chairs would move with the screen. And it was really fun because it was Reboot. And Reboot was an amazing show. Andre, I hit the downtown location a lot. Kind of annoyed when it closed out and left $35 on my card. Oh, that hurts. But yeah, unfortunately we lost this due to the pandemic. So, cheers to video is on YouTube. Okay, I know what I'm doing after this. Thank you. I will definitely check that out because I've wanted to see that for so long. So cheers to Playdium. We will miss you. It holds a special place. Now we're ready to go into number 1, the final arcade cabinet, the one that, man, if you know me, you should probably know what this is because I'm a huge fan of the franchise. I own as of today, as of an hour ago, I own every single version I own every game in this franchise. I own all of them on every single console. I am a diehard fan of this. Sit down and I could talk. I might do a full episode talking about my love of this in one day. Mortal Kombat 3. And we could go with Mortal Kombat 3. We could go Ultimate Mortal Kombat, whichever one. They're all incredible. This is a series that, man, if you were a 90s kid, how can you not love Mortal Kombat? This was the game that introduced the ESRB. This is a series that took every everything from every action movie you could ever think of and put it into a fighting game. You had characters from like that kind of looked like Bruce Lee. You had characters that kind of looked like Jean-Claude Van Damme. You had guys with big metal arms. You had guys with forearms. It was just an incredible series, and it got no better than Mortal Kombat 3 or Ultimate or that, because Mortal Kombat 3 kind of has different versions. But yeah, this is one that is just it's a different level when it comes to. I love Street Fighter. I love all those fighting games, but Mortal Kombat holds a special place in my heart. It is the best. And the problem is it is unfortunately the last 2D Mortal Kombat game. After that, they started going into 3D, and I love Mortal Kombat 4, but it just doesn't hold a candle to Mortal Kombat 3 and Ultimate Mortal Kombat. And let's look at the cabinet. I mean, the cabinet alone, Shao Kahn, Sindel on the side, just telling you that you are not worthy to play this cabinet. It looks so good. And then you have the announcers announcing the fights. You have the screaming, the fatality. You were a god as a kid if you were at a cabinet like this and you get to that fatality and you pulled it off. Like, you had kids surrounding this cabinet, and that is something that didn't happen very often. I don't remember people surrounding Street Fighter. I don't remember people surrounding House of the Dead. I remember kids surrounding Mortal Kombat, though. And yeah, the gameplay is incredible. Every character was just knocking it out of the park. Even the ones that people don't like. Like, I still have a love for Stryker and characters like that. And yeah, it's hard not to understand why this is so impressive, because it is the first one. I believe it's the first 90s series that Arcade 1-Up made a retro cabinet for. I don't believe there was any before this. They had, Pac-Man and all those, but like when it comes to cabinets from like the 90s, this was number one. And there's a reason why, because it's Mortal frickin' Kombat, and that's why it's number one. Yeah, that's my list. That's my list. Let's quickly go through them. We got number one. We got Mortal Kombat. We're going the wrong way. We got Daytona USA. We got Cruisin USA. We got NFL Blitz. We got Silent Scope. We got Primal Rage, NBA Jam, X-Men, Crazy Taxi, and Marvel vs. Capcom. Folks, that is it. We are at the end of the show. I greatly appreciate you guys sticking around and watching this. If you can, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. All of those things mean a lot to me. As I said early in the show, we've got a bunch of cons coming up soon. We've got Toronto Comic Con in a couple weeks. We've got Niagara Game Con at the end of the month. Oh, we've got a lot of cosplaying to do. No Double Dragon again, Alex. That was just a little before my time. I remember playing Double Dragon, and same with Contra and all those ones, but it just wasn't my realm. I was a Mortal Kombat kid. I was a Crazy Taxi kid, so that was my era. When it comes to the podcast, we are going to be doing a couple episodes this next week. We are going to be doing what it's like to be a volunteer. I really want to do an episode about that, telling you guys what it's like to volunteer, because we're getting into cosplay season, and or Comic-Con season, I should say. And I want you guys to think about volunteering, because there's a lot of fun volunteering at a convention. So I want to tell you guys what it's like for people like myself, what it's like volunteering. So we're going to talk about that one day. We're obviously going to review Toronto Comic-Con. We're going to review Toronto Game Expo. And we're probably going to take a week off. That does not mean that we're not going to have a show, though. I am going to be taping a show probably at the end of the month, and we're going to have to edit it and all that. It's not going to be live, but we're going to have a guest on here, and we're going to, talk about them and a whole lot more. So keep your eyes peeled and keep subscribed to the channel, because it's going to be a fun show. We're going to have a lot of fun. Fandom Frontier, volunteer, drink the Kool-Aid. You'll love it. One of us. It is so, so true. But I'm going to let you guys take off. It is past 8 o'clock. I want you guys to enjoy your night. It means a lot that you spent some time with me. I hope you come back next week. My name's Myers Corp Cosplay, and I will see you all very, very soon. Take care. Talk to you soon. Hey, thanks for watching Monday Night Nerd. If you enjoyed this content, please hit the subscribe button, like this content, and follow on social media for even more nerdy fun. See you soon.